Welcome to the DAZN Boxing Show. I'm Chris Mannix. He is the Latin Snake, Sergio Mora, and we are in the heart of New York City for a very busy fight weekend, Sergio, that begins on Friday at Madison Square Garden, where Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano will do it again. I can't believe it has been 3 years since these two women first got into the ring. The first fight was ultra competitive. The second fight was ultra competitive. Is there any reason to believe that this third fight won't be just as competitive?
It'll be competitive, but we're going to have a decisive winner, because if you look at the history of trilogies, there's normally too much familiarity between the two fighters, so you're bound to get a stoppage. From the greatest trilogies like Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, there was a stoppage late round, to Gotti, Ward, and so on and so forth. I think we're going to get a stoppage in this one because I've seen wear and tear in Katie Taylor. I think her age has caught up to her, the wars that she's had over and over and over in her career, the long amateur background. Time's going to catch up. Mother time's going to catch up to Katie Taylor, but it's going to be a great fight until the last. But Amanda Serrano is a flat-footed fighter. She doesn't bounce on her toes. She has the power. She has the body shot. So I think she's able to age more gracefully than a fighter that like Taylor, who needs to bounce on her toes, use her jab, and be slick with her defense. So yeah, I think Serrano has the advantage.
All right, so let's talk about that advantage, because in both of the first two fights, Amanda Serrano has been able to hurt Katie Taylor, to the point where we wondered, could Katie survive? She survived both times and was able to, thrive in the later rounds and go on to win a decision. We know Katie Taylor has the formula for how to beat Amanda Serrano. What does Amanda Serrano have to do differently to get a decision against Katie Taylor?
She has to use her jab. She has to use that southpaw advantage. She needs to break that distance, that footwork that Katie Taylor's so good at. And you do that with the main punch, the jab. Aim for the chest, aim for the belly, and then come around the guard with the right hook. That right hand, that lead right hand by Serrano is going to be the main key. All right, so once she gets on the inside, we know what she does. She picks up fighters with uppercuts. Probably the best body puncher in women's boxing is Serrano. But in order to get there and do all that work, you have to get through that guard, that footwork. So I think the jab's going to be the key.
I think you're right. I think less tactically, and you can tell me if you think I'm wrong here, but like each of these first two fights, it's felt like down the stretch, Katie's been the one that's really wanted it. Like Katie's done just a little bit more down the stretch of these fights to get a win. Like for Amanda Serrano, to me the key is going to be fighting for every second of each of these 2-minute rounds, because that's how Katie Taylor's going to fight. Katie Taylor is the master of the 2-minute rounds. Like there was some talk after the second fight that maybe it would be a 3-minute round fight this time around. No. Katie, her team were like, no, we don't think so. We're too good at 2-minute rounds, and we're still the A side on this promotion. Amanda Serrano can't let up for an instant. She's in great shape. She's fought distance fights a lot of times in her career. But if you go back and watch the first couple of fights, it's always been Katie Taylor just eking out some of these rounds with her effort, with her output. Amanda Serrano's got to match that. She's got to be able to compete with that output, compete with that pressure, compete with the activity, I think, of Katie Taylor.
It's called time management, and it's also called shoe shining. We've seen that with Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard. Close competitive fight. Hagler was the aggressor coming forward. But every once in a while, Sugar Ray Leonard will give you that shoe shine. The crowd will go wild. Judges are human. They feed off that. They feed off that energy. They feed off that. So, they can concentrate on 2 minutes of a round where, yes, Hagler was coming forward. Amanda Serrano was coming forward, being aggressor, landing the heavy shots. But then the speed, the footwork, the excitement of the crowd, that sways the opinion of a judge. That sways the opinion of fans. So I think that's what Serrano's going to have to do. Not only time management, but also crowd management. Don't give the impression that you're giving up that round. And just when, Katie Taylor starts to shoe shine or doing any of that, you join her with that shoe shine. You punch in between the shots. Yes, you're going to get hit, but that's another thing that Serrano brings to this table. Her punch resistance is a little bit better than Katie Taylor at this point of their career. So all the advantages, Serrano, and that's the reason I have her favorite.
I agree with you. Serrano's output is great. Like, she's a high-volume puncher, but it's just like these flurries of Katie Taylor have gotten the attention of the judge in the first two fights. That is what Amanda Serrano has to match. In the second fight, we saw a pretty nasty headbutt that changed the complexion a little bit of that fight. Amanda complained about the headbutt after the fight. At the first press conference, she showed up wearing headgear and has been making some noise, heard her team about those Taylor headbutts. Do you think that's going to be a variable in this fight? Because we know Katie comes jumping in and jumping out. That is her boxing style.
No, not only is that her style in and out with the footwork, but it's a left-handed boxer versus a right-handed boxer. That's what they're going to do. They're going to collide feet. They're going to cross each other's feet, and they're going to clash heads. That's just the way it is whenever you have an orthodox fighter versus a southpaw. So yes, I expect it again. I like the fact that Serrano and Team Serrano has been informing the referee, letting everybody know that if there's a head clash and there's a cut, and especially if it's before the 4th round, they got to be smart about it. You can't let blood and a cut, impact a fight. So I like the fact that they're aware of that, and the jab's going to be the key. If you're going to be able to keep the range with the jab, keep control of that distance, then you're not going to clash heads. So that's very smart on Serrano's part.
So you're taking Serrano to win the 3rd fight?
I'm taking her to win the 3rd fight decisively by knockout even.
Wow, okay. I'm going to take Katie Taylor by decision because Katie Taylor always wins by decision. That's sort of her MO in the sport of boxing. It is an outstanding undercard, an all-women's undercard featuring some of the best fighters in all of women's boxing. Championship fights up and down the card. Which one of these fights are you most interested in?
Alicia Baumgartner. I mean, she's just charismatic. She has the hooks and the looks, like I like to say about Ryan Garcia. But it's her time to shine. She hasn't been as active as she should have, and she loves the big stage. We know how she has that swag. She comes out dancing and smiling. There's something about her, and now she has the power and the stage to really shine. And this is the biggest stage possible. So I like the fact that she's facing an undefeated fighter in her opponent. And Miranda, she has some goods as well. Jennifer Miranda has a good jab, good distance. So it's going to be up to Baumgartner to set up that power, and land those big hooks and land that bomb to make a splash here in NYC.
This is a huge opportunity for Alicia Baumgartner. She is going to get the biggest stage that she's ever fought on. And Taylor and Serrano, when they had that stage as the co-main event of Mike Tyson against Jake Paul, they capitalized on it. They put on a phenomenal fight that really whet the appetite for the public to get a 3rd fight between these two. Baumgartner's got to have the same type of performance. We need to see that same power that she showed against Terry Harper. We need to see that same skill that she showed against Michaela Mayer. She's got to remind people that she is the best at 130 pounds, and it'll position her potentially for a fight against Serrano later on. It could potentially put her in a mix to Holly Holm at some point this year. Big opportunity for Alicia Baumgartner. The fight that I like, though, is at super middleweight. You've got Savannah Marshall, the woman most closely connected to Claressa Shields over the last 10 years, going up against Shadesha Green. Shadesha Green had this great start to her career. She looked like a true knockout artist in that weight class, and then she lost to Franchon Cruz DAZN. Some of the shine came off her there. This is a huge fight for them. The winner of this fight is going to be in prime position to face Claressa for a big payday at some point, either later this year or early next year. That's the fight I like the most.
That's the most competitive fight. I mean, if you look at all these fights, you have a clear winner on the odds, so the clear favorite. This is the one that's the closest on the odds, and that should tell you that's going to be the most competitive fight.
Yeah. Who do you like in that one? I think Savannah outboxes her considered. I think Savannah's the better boxer. I think she's better than Shadesha.
I think Green's going to have a chance on the inside, but yeah, Savannah in the end, I believe.
Yeah, good fight. And maybe we get Savannah Marshall versus Claressa Shields, part 3. Amateurs once in the pros, one more time in the pros. We'll see what happens. What all happens on Netflix on Friday night. Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, part 3. We get to see these women run it back one more time. 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific, live on Netflix.